Good afternoon and welcome to this panel called Cross-Sector Artistic Practices, Trends and Insights. I'm Samuele Piazza and I'm curator here at OGR and I will be the moderator. So I'm really pleased to have with me joining physical presence and online presence some people we worked on for the jury of the Stars Prize. And so the first guest is Carla Spiluttini. She's project manager for Stars Prize and Ars Electronica. She's joining us on a screen, unfortunately, but great to see you again after the jury.
Thank you.
Then we have Rosanna Di Nuzzo. She is a member of MIT and she's responsible for international projects.
Hi, nice to meet you. Good afternoon.
Then is Chiara Bertini, curator at Maxi in Rome. So welcome.
Thanks. Hi, everybody.
And finally, another jury of the prize, which is Ghislaine Boddington, and she's the creative director of Body Data Space.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
So I think we'll be a conversation starting from some of the topics that really emerged from the discussion during the panel for the discussion about the winners and the semifinalists about the prize. As I said, some of you were part of it while others are stepping in and other people of the institutions were part of the discussion, but I'm sure you will be informed, you have been informed about the discussions and how the conversation went. So I think we will focus on basically the interaction between contemporary art and socially involved practices. And of course, I would start from the two jurors. And the first question will be to reflect on how they see, probably also starting from what they have seen in the applications, how the difficulties of the present time, some are new, like the pandemic, some are ongoing struggles, I would say, like environmental crisis and stuff like that, how these issues are reflected on the proposal of artists and creative people working with technology and science, and if you can see trends in the discussion. And I will start with Carla and then to Ghislaine.
Thank you so much. So we at Ars Electronica, and especially for the Mother Stars Prize also, we strongly believe in art as a catalyst for pressing issues and also as a seismograph for emerging technologies. So I think for us it is very much effect that artists are extremely sensitive to arising issues and are also free to voice their concerns creatively. So recent trends we have observed not only in the Stars Prize for Social Good, but also in the general Stars Prize certainly include climate change, as you mentioned, and related topics such as sustainable manufacturing, and of course also social challenges evolving from most recently the COVID crisis and further developments and digitalization. One of the two Stars Prize winners of this year from the Mother Stars Prize, so to say, is Remix and Barrio from Barcelona, and they successfully demonstrate, for example, how a local initiative can make the innovation process both accessible and sustainable from the ground up. So in this project, the EAC Fab Lab Barcelona teamed up with local restaurants and factories and manufacturers, startups and citizens from the neighborhood of Poblenou in Barcelona to create a value chain for food waste that resulted in many different products, from vegetarian textiles out of orange peels to organic plastic from avocado pits to dog treats and fertilizers for urban gardens. And not only the smaller scale artistic insight, I think, is very valuable. Especially in digital manufacturing, we see a great interest of the industry to collaborate with artists to create unforeseen results. And what started with the involvement of designers and art thinkers in the grassroots movement of local fab labs has now moved on to larger scale and is actually being incorporated in larger manufacturing companies. Also a trend that we've seen is that artistic impact has a big role in emerging technologies and making them understandable. So we've seen in a few examples that art can take on the role of being a wonderful communicator to help make visible many hidden processes in our data-driven development. So it's truly incredible to see the many, many forms that art thinking can find to transform data into artworks. This year's START Prize winner, again, of the Mother START Prize, because I don't want to spoil any secrets, our territorial agency with their project Oceans in Transformation. And they demonstrate also very well how data can and should be interpreted also with the help of artists to give a clearer understanding of what such a vast array of numbers can actually mean. And we think that this aspect can bring very valuable insights and also added benefit to the data processing industry and big data in general. And not only did the project team generate the spectacular visual and auditive interpretations of this big array of data, but the project also led to the creation of a whole curriculum and events to educate citizens and students about the changes in the world's oceans. And collaboration, on the one hand, and inclusion, in the other hand, do certainly help to promote awareness about pressing and emerging issues and the broad public, and also bring it to the attention of more specific groups, I think, such as industrialists or policymakers and researchers. And also thanks very much to the aid of the European Commission and the whole START initiative, I think we can take our small part in continuing this effort also to bring about new meaningful ways of innovation in Europe.
Thank you very much. Really concise, but really full of ideas. Like, I hope there will be time to get back to some of the issues you mentioned. But Glenn, the word's for you.
Yes, no, thank you, Carla. And you've got a kind of bigger overview of the whole of the STARTS programme, which I'd just like to say I think is an amazing programme to bring together this triangulation between science, art and technology, very much needed even before the last year we've been through, the kind of inspiration to actually reconnect a kind of new renaissance of thinking between science and art and technology adding to that, enabling that as such. So for me, that's really important, that interdisciplinary crossovers of thinking. And adding into that, with this particular prize, the focus on social tech and social impact, it was very interesting to see the range of applications that came in. And I was really looking out for particularly because, of course, this happened, this application procedure happened right in the middle of the pandemic, where we've all been in a major shift change in our lives, everybody in the world, artists included, and scientists and technologists. But the chance to transform has been put on the table in a sense. And it was very interesting to read through the applications and see how particular groupings, the interdisciplinary groupings, had taken the opportunity to reimagine and to try to look at creating change. So inspiration, I was looking for inspiration, particularly in this area of the communities of the future, and actually how we actually work with these kind of interdisciplinary skills into the communities which will be our future communities post this pandemic scenario. So pivots during lockdown have happened all over the world for different, not just in the arts and science and technology sector, but it's had to happen in many sectors, and very fast pivots have happened like online learning, incredible shift into actually education online in many countries. And obviously the health sector have worked incredibly hard and fast to pivot their setups to deal with everything that we've all needed. And we have seen that too, coming through the creative thinking and the interdisciplinary side. And I think that what we were looking for was people who had a real passion to continue to reach an audience because their message was really important, and actually to pivot that in a way to deal with, as the application information said, to recognise what was happening around us and actually to enable a participation in new thinking for a future world as such. So I agree with Carla that what's been very important is to start to see projects which are dealing with helping a much wider audience understand through audio, visualizations, different methodologies, the complexities of big data. Yeah, the machine learning, AI, complex systems, classification systems that, of course, people who are experts are understanding, but which are very hard for actually a mass audience to come across. So I was also looking for groups who were aware, as we all are, that these are very complex back-end projects. There's no doubt. The coding, the interaction between artists, scientists and technologists in terms of just common-based language and understanding each other's expertise, but which also fed us a simpler front end, an ability to actually bring people in and enable people to participate and be part of that project, yeah. And I think we found that in the winners that came through. So, and there's a lot of work out there that's been quite inspiring this year. But I also would say to those groups of transdisciplinaries, do look what else has happened out there already. Because there was some applications which were repeats from quite way back. And that was a bit of a pity to have that in there. So, and I think what we also saw was some very good environmental thinking and the climate change side too in the base of those projects. So we'll say some more on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, like that's really interesting, especially because, and I'm speaking from OGR perspective now, like we are in a space that try to mix arts and technological research. So like having just next door big companies or startups that are dealing with big data and stuff that like seems really scary to look at, and then having like some more, I would say, people that have your language as an art historian or a curator, and having you like introduced to those themes that are impacting our lives without even us, like general public, noticing it really. So I agree, and we are trying and invent new ways for artists and people from the tech industries to work together, and that's of course something. And
make it more understandable for a much wider public, yeah. Because we do need to understand in the widest sense, particularly with what's happening around us now. So, yeah.
Totally. And speaking of the Italian context, like I would like to ask the other two members of the group, like, do you have an idea of how the system in Italy is working, what is lacking, if there are like, for example, we are here for an award, but maybe there are awards, residencies, programs that, or even like formats that we don't even know yet that we are all working towards, and you would suggest maybe some examples or cases that come to mind. Up to you guys.
I'm going to start.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Rosanna Di Nunzio from MIT. MIT is the Italian Digital Culture Center based in Milan, supported by Fondazione Cariplo and coming from Media Guru, that is an historical platform, inspirational events, collecting gurus from all over the world. And according to our experience, before talking of formats, maybe we should focus on a little on the context where these formats will be implemented, whatever the format is, because the context could allow the success of the creative process, also in terms of impact on society. So shaping the right context, for our experience, it means to engage stakeholders, the right stakeholders, so institutions, industries, and organizations, and also to make them aware of the power of the creative process to trigger innovation, in society, in industries for the sustainability, and also then trying to involve them to shape the challenges that the artists should follow. And then when it comes to formats, of course, the artist in residence has still a great power of production, of impact on society. But of course, the artist shouldn't be left alone. So we see the residencies as a kind of a new Renaissance atelier where maybe affirmed artists could guide, mentor emerging artists like Verrocchio and Leonardo, for example, and of course trying to shape a multidisciplinary ecosystem involving science and technology. So it is still important to bring scientists and experts in technologies to the artist atelier and studio and vice versa. And but I think that in this situation, this post-COVID situation, maybe we could also try to go beyond art and science, because what we saw is that during this pandemic, maybe even the science and the technology had to face very important dilemmas. So what we saw for the medical science is that maybe it was not prepared to face all of this. And on the other hand, we also saw a very huge digital transformation, but maybe lots of people, young people, women, were excluded from that, and mainly those that are living in a very weak social context. So there are big dilemmas that maybe today request that besides art and science and technology, so besides scientists and technologists, we maybe also need to involve a kind of metaphysical thinking, reflection, maybe bringing philosophers into the process to try to feed the new challenges for this very big challenge, to try to shape, to create a new sense of humanity. And of course, it is also important to involve in this creative process, multidisciplinary process, also the policymakers that could make the difference in terms of impact, the concrete impact on societies. So I think that we should enlarge the setting of this multidisciplinary approach in the creative process. And last but not least, we also at MIT have this, we have experimented the cross-fertilization approach, methodology, so trying to involve actively industries with the artists to put artists into industry to trigger shorter circuits for the innovation of product or processes. That was very successful. But again, we need to create the ground, the right context. In that case, it was successful to involve, for example, business association, industrial parks that could make this kind of bridge between the artists, the creative, with the industries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think probably what we are missing is to make it more stable. Maybe there are like successful stories, but they are more spots, like especially in Italy, and like a broader understanding of a clearer mission and like different people that could join in like also I would say a physical or like virtual space that will accommodate the different people under the same I would say, yes, vision. Probably.
And of course, the transnational dimension is still a key.
Yeah.
Still a key.
Yeah, and do you think, like in Italy, we are still somehow not part of the network, like 100%?
Maybe not yet.
Okay.
But I think that also thanks to programs like STARS, thanks to European networks, that we are trying to build, to enlarge, just to allow this kind of cross-cultural, cross-sectoral contamination, cross-pollution, yes, but I think that we are in the right way to start building this ecosystem, as I said before, this context that is, of course, also transnational.
Chiara?
Yeah, so I'm curator at Maxi, and Maxi Museum starts its activities in 2010, and since 2013 is a research body. So giving really great importance to his department of research and education. So for us, it's really not, we don't have only the vocation of conservation and the exhibition of our collection, but really is important to us to become more and more a research center. So really a laboratory for experimentation, innovation, really to research and to produce the aesthetics of our time. And for sure, for those who are in these contemporary fields, research is crucial. And giving great importance to connection between science, art, and technology. The museum already presents some exhibition, such as Gravity, the Universe After Einstein, that was co-produced with the National Institute of Nuclear Physics and the Italian Space Agency. That was in 2017-18. Then the next year was the case of, in 2018-19, was the case of Law Form, Imaginaries and Vision in the Era of Artificial Intelligence. So really putting an eye on AI and within the arts. And then in 2019-20 was the At Home project for contemporary living, so more architecture-based projects. The museum really aims more and more to foster this connection between science, arts, and technology, and we are happy to be part of the new STARTS project, Repairing the Present. So we are happy we can't wait to start this collaboration amongst many other international partners. And yes, I think that we need also, speaking just in relation to Rosanna, what Rosanna was said, that really we need to understand that science, technology, and the arts has to bridge connection, but communicate more because I speak many times also with scientists, with scientist friends, and the problem is really that sometimes, mostly in Italy, there is no connection. Like science is not seen like part of our culture, and we see like technology as tool. Something just is tool that we need to do stuff, but not like it's part of our culture. So we need to foster this connection in deeper way, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think like it comes from like Benedetto Croce. So like in Italy, if you do like classical, like humanities, then you are an intellectual, and then like liceo scientifico, it's like something a little like smaller, and yeah, so, and they are separate areas, and that's like what we come from the 20s onwards. So that has to be like changed in a way and tweaked, but it's not easy. And coming from the perspective of a museum, it's interesting to maybe, and it's an open question to everyone, about this idea of like how to integrate research that is, of course, forward thinking in terms of science and technology, but it's also aesthetically powerful, and so how the two aspects are actually working together, and that's like something that, yeah, it's of course up to discussion, and it's probably one of the issues that it's always brought to the front. So is this like aesthetically relevant, in which ways? And so with new categories probably of what aesthetically relevant. So Carla, I will start probably from you.
Can I just start by making almost a counterpoint? Because I think it's not only the aesthetics that the artistic input can completely help with. I would say that aesthetics can only be one of many side projects or byproducts of artistic involvement in processes. And I think one also very important impact is not only the aesthetics, but also the special kind of narration that artists bring with them, of which aesthetics is also a big part. And I think it was mentioned also by Ghislaine and by the others that there is much communication with it. And it's one of the intrinsic characteristics of art to tell stories and to make things visible and perceptible in a very understandable way. So to take complex facts, very complex issues, and dissect them and turn them around and try to get a different viewpoint, to find gaps and mistakes and create very unforeseen outcomes. And I think that these stories, these narratives, are one important aspect that makes artistic involvement so very powerful, and that gives a lot of visibility to topics that are otherwise not seen, maybe, and can open up the discussion for topics to be critically questioned also. And I think artists are very free to voice their questions and concerns, because there are no preconceptions or demands from the market or from politics. They can be like the crazy ones, voicing everything they can think of. And these missing boundaries, I think, can enable open thinking spaces that might otherwise not be created. So just to mention one fact, of course. And yeah, this is one of the reasons I think it's very important to actively promote the involvement of artists and art thinking in many processes. And also, like Maria Gracia mentioned, it's a big effort because it needs a lot of work to bring artists and industrialists together, because also you need to find a common language, you need to find a common ground, common topics that are possible for everyone to work on. But I think it's worth the while to keep including art thinking in many processes, from research and development to education to policy making and inventing.
Thank you. Ghislaine?
Yes, no, it's interesting. Oh, I've got to use the mic. I think my thing's not working. So it's interesting to hear from the Italian side, this very separation between humanities and sciences. And of course, this is reflected in many countries and education systems. And as you probably can guess, from even just this last year in Britain, we have a massive focus on the sciences and technology, engineering and maths, the STEM, S-T-E-M, which of course does bring incredible results through, like the vaccine scenario, etc. I'm coming from the arts, of course, so we are in this constant debate on how to enable the arts to be part of that, STEAM, S-T-E-A-M, rather than to be left out completely. But I'm very interested in that STEAM debate, because I don't see how they can be separate. If you're engineering a bridge, you design a bridge, yeah? So design is integrated into many things, etc. So they're very important. So, but I think we have got a lot we can learn from the industrial or industry-led methodologies too. And you've got an accelerator here at AGR. And I know I've worked in accelerators myself as the creative and arts director in Plexel in London. And there we crossed over particularly on processes. And I really agree with Carla, the process is really the important part of this. The process of creating an MVP, a minimum viable product, which is done through all research. If you do innovation research in creative tech, etc., is not a bad process to go towards. There's artists involved in that with science and technology. and the type of thinking of what we call practice-led research in Britain, which is within academia, actually. We do have quite a strong, I'm a practice-based researcher within a university scenario, yeah. Practitioners that are researching, or you can have research-led practice, practice-led research, doesn't really matter which way round it is, but you're researching and creating alongside each other. Bringing in the user experience from the start, of the aim of the user, right from the beginning of the project. What is this going to be about? What does it want to say to what people? And what does it want to do to which parts of the public community? I've learned is imperative. And I think the arts leaves that out a lot. Leaves it till far too late often, actually, to work out who they are doing it for, what the message needs to bridge, to reach. You know, because often the artists and creatives know exactly what they want to say. They just haven't actually gone to the end point early enough. And doing iterations, so never going, no, this is the final piece, but actually I've made this piece. Can we get feedback? Can we get users in? Can we try it out? Right, we've got loads of great feedback, discussion groups. As you were kind of saying, Carla, the debate that can happen, that can come from different sectors into that and give you very different viewpoints, which can take you in different directions. I think these kind of crossovers of processes, which have got different languages around them, but we all learn different languages, and that's part of the challenge and the enjoyment. I think we need to take those up, and I think in accelerators like here, that's very possible in today's world, with younger entrepreneurs and creative tech people working alongside artists and scientists, yeah.
Definitely, that's really interesting, because you mentioned academia as well, and that's like practice-based. I think they are developing slowly, but yeah, that's of course like a big difference and something to be pushed more, maybe.
We have about, 25 years of that now in the UK. It still struggles, but it is accepted. And we have an impact-led research assessment that happens on all universities. In fact, universities have to have impact out into public policy, governments, international, environmental, or they don't get the next sets of research money.
Okay.
That's really interesting. Rosanna?
Yes, I agree, and I think that the challenge is to go beyond dualisms and separations, because the risk is also to stay in ghettos, to keep creating ghettos. So, and the artist has a key role, because of course we should bring artists close to scientists, technologists, but the artist, through the aesthetic and the emotional languages, could trigger this kind of short circuits that could allow the change of behaviors of people, of industries. That is the key in this process. So the key role of artists is to change behavior for a better inclusion, for the sustainability, for the challenges we are all facing globally. And again, the context is important. For example, we were running this project where we involved groups of activists, young activists, to think about specific challenges. In that case, was diversity, and we are trying to bring the visions, the needs of the activists as a statement to feed, to nourish a call for artists. So trying to shape this kind of residency again, where artists and activists keep cooperating during the co-creation process. And I think that this kind of synergies could be replicated among several communities, including, as I said before, the involvement of institutions, of policymakers, to try to then give to this process a concrete impact. So to allow the co-creation, the creativity to change behaviors and to impact on policies and on challenges.
Chiara, do you want to add something?
Yes, I just everybody just say the important core of what art is inspiring for sure is and it brings for sure the. Yes, for sure, it brings, it shocks, it provokes questioning and reflection, and like art and science, really, for me, are pushing and try to go beyond the limits of our knowledge, and also with technology. So, yes, so I think that there is a great combination there to go further in this direction and be inspired, and be shocked and be provoked. So at the end, when we are when something touches us, at the end we act in society in a different way, and so for sure there is a social impact as.
Yeah, and speaking of social impact, like one of the criteria we had to look for in the proposal were actually social results, and how you account for them. And so, yeah, maybe Sam wants to, because it's always like quite difficult. I mean, you can do it with numbers, but sometimes it's like more diverse and more diffused. So how, like, probably also the criteria we have for impact might be defined in different ways. Like, I don't know if someone has ideas about this and want to say something.
I think it's interesting to hear we're using the word co-creation, which I think is really important. And for me, that puts a clarity. It's definitely clear in my mind that in today's world, it's certainly not just artists who are the creatives. Yeah, the technologists are creative, the scientists are creative. We have a lot of amazing creative thinking going on, and that's what needs to be linked up. And particularly in relationship to impact, and if we look at this year, the shift in access to the arts, that has been through creative technology. It couldn't have happened without the creative technologies and artists, in some cases, working really creatively with creative technologies. My work throughout the 90s on the dance tech scene is entirely about bringing together technologists from 91 through with Shinkansen, right through till now with dancers, and absolutely levelling out who's a creative. Everyone's a creative in there. And you've got to respect each other and each other's processes to actually go any further at all. It's not just artists telling scientists and technologists what to do. That doesn't work. And that doesn't bring impact. Yeah. I think the other thing about impact is impact into policy making and institutions is really important. But it's not the be-all and end-all, yeah, because actually it's impact into people's lives that really matter. And if we all just say we affected that policy or we affected that institution, all we're doing is handing down line the actual delivery of the impact. And so often they just get stopped within institutions or within policies that go nowhere. So I think I had a discussion yesterday about getting laptops to young people all over the world who didn't have enough online access, either nothing at home or were sharing with multiple brothers and sisters, etc. And we've had, I think, something like 2 million have actually been handed out in the UK into these scenarios. But the handout happened, best of all, through the laptops being given by the big companies to multiple small groups who are working at a grassroots level, who set up buddy systems to find out who were the young people that really needed those. It wasn't just to like give it to all to a big institution and it gets stuck in a warehouse. Yeah, so we have to work really down into the roots and go through the layers. So I think we've got to be careful that we don't just impact policy. I think often it gets stopped, or that person moves on, or the job changes and nothing happens. We go 4 steps forward with amazing work coming through, artists, scientists, technologists, and then somebody leaves that position, a new minister's in place, and it goes 4 steps back again. So,
yeah, that's really interesting. I'm afraid we are approaching the end of the panel, and we are actually leaving you with a video that is a selection of the project of the finalists of the Prize for Social Good. And so I want to really thank all the panelists, and thank you, Carla, that are not here. And I hope the conversation is like continuing after, and of course, like after this day with the different institutions involved. And thank you to everyone watching. And yeah, I'll leave you to the next panels.
We're going to announce the prize at the end of today, are we?
Yeah,
the prizes,
exactly.
Yeah.
The prize is announced at the end of the day, and so we are not spoiling anything, but yeah, of course, we invite everyone to join for the announcement of the winners.
Color thinks by itself, wrote Baudelaire. At Compson, we are developing new scientific and artistic methods to understand how color thinks as a form of aesthetic computation.
We can ask, for instance, how do people use color to envision AI? As winners of Stanford's Art of Science competition, we show not only that AI is seen as blue, but also that a human form emerges in the AI cologram over time. We have built our software to compare colorgrams across IPs from around the world. This is just the beginning of Compson's explorations. Join us as we venture to the edge of sense and meaning.
Number 55.